Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to move on with this week's theme of Best of 2022, some of your favorite tracks that came out last year. If you have notifications turned on, you probably saw that I dropped my Album of the Year list on Saturday. If you're interested in that and haven't seen it yet, there's the link for it right there. So let's dive into this. First, we're going to be checking out a track from Midi. This one's called The Race is About to Begin from last year's album Hellfire. Let's dive into it and see what Midi is bringing to the table today.
Idiots are infinite, and thinking men are numbered. Don't kid yourself, this is the news. Let's start with Tristan Bongo, alone in the race, conscription calling his name. One more night of freedom, and the air is high up atop the stands. And the lines are open, that's Lucky Star. I saw Dr. Murphy, Sun Tzu, the class Mr. Winner, Spot, Wallace, Mrs. Gonorrhea, Perfect P, Dead Man Walking, and the company favorite. Our son hands dad's hard on Clash their car, and she laughs at the gall of the small Guido lips. I've hit on spot, the kids already won. John Kyle smeared with last night's beer, reflect vomiting Chris who dreams his dream is near, in the form of Mrs. Gonorrhea. Reporting the state of affairs.
Well, I dig the dynamics.
Of his prime time hair. Why it can't quite rival the mains on these mares. The smoothness can't compare. The gleaming appliances attract attention. The raffled prizes, too many to mention, displayed all over the stadium entrance. Hypodermic needles.
What?
Hidden under the coat sleeves of sweaty wise guy money-earning men in search of the horse to apprehend. The race is about to begin. The race is about to begin. Blondie locked in 4 eyes arms, squirming like a dying fish. That's the last I can recall. The race was ran, someone lost, someone won. I came and I stayed in the same ever since. Outside, the freaks of the wilderness, open in spring. The time before time was the time to sing. Unidentified songs surging through the brush. Transcription futile, let alone a rush. You miss when hunch and scribbling notes. Here no journalism is ever in vogue. Despite the attempts of doctors and saints, none of recorded his heavenly grace. But I stayed and stayed and stayed. That race ran 30 years back, and each day since the same. Beat back the witness of a million catastrophes. To see the spotty remnants each is left. I'm forgetting which cups I pissed, from which I can still drink. Tonight it's so cold, my feet are shrinking. Groping around for the size of my boot. It's no night for the blind with all these sirens. I envy death mutes. Some killer on the loose again, some idiot at large, some Chinese moose again, an excuse for the sarge. No sirens, no silent, the lock cabin silent. No killer either, no creaks on the floor. Lock cabin, whack cabin. A shack's all I have. Yes, my cubby hole stuffed with skeletons by my neighbors and stuffed with anthrax. Where does that leave us? I came 30 years back from Salafasien via South Lake and Hunt to Suntaran, the late Sun Sugar's hometown. Buried not far from here. My only friend, neighbor, what neighbor? My shack is alone, his pen changing lives one line at a time. Blindness, what blindness, sweet blindness, a little laughter in the silence, a little magic, a little kindness, a little all over me. Yes, me, the first, the last, the everything, no trace of anything. No sin, no life, no fun, no time, no any fucking thing. No one, no yes, no house, no shack, no ain't, no be, no see, no etc. No one, no two, no etc. No school, no life, no work, no time, no book, no art, no book, no truth, no use, no friend. No, 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 not, no hole, no work, no end, no real, no fake. No king of this useless nameless land. No end to this nothing nonsense awesome. No day set for my saviors arrive to carry me far across green waters above the sky, below the depths, among the white cloud, the red step, on a fly forever in between ends, or in between, or in between, no between. Although nothing, no savior, no journey, no end. 1,000 years of no nothing, hiding from nothing. No reason to hide sins, no reason not to sin. No reason to pretend, no reason to pretend, there is not, no reason. Oh yes, bloody ran on the track, flies, got stuck in a rail, a reporter was caught getting sweaty in the stable. Bloody got flies, gone, we just gone, caught, gone, Chris, I'm not gonna man, never. Just among the never left, here, becomes divine. The infinitesimal. When all sins irrepressible.
It's interesting they have the
No use
very soothing guitar arpeggiation, and then we get these shrill violin elements on the outside.
The rupture comes and leaves no stone unturned. So don't wish for anything. The clown can be a martyr. The whore can be an angel. And the hack becomes a master. The Christ becomes divine. The infinitesimal, all sins irrepressible.
Wow. Like with a lot of Black Midi's stuff that I've been introduced to over the last year or so, I would say. They're a very recent band for me. I don't know how long they've been around, but I have such an admiration for what they're doing. Even though every single song has bounced off of me really hard. Every time I see the band Black Midi come up, I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to check this out. I haven't really enjoyed anything that they've given me yet, but there's going to be something interesting on display. It's going to push my understanding of music. They are going to take the envelope and rip it open and take us to new places. I don't know where I was going. I was gonna have like push the envelope, but I was already like pushing boundaries. I was like, I don't want to use push again, so I used rip the envelope. I don't know where I was going. The song has broken my brain. Okay, there's so much odd things going on in here that I can't quite get a read on. It is all over the place in an extremely, at least in the two sections, cohesive way. I'm still not sure how the ending correlates to, or I should say the last half correlates to the first half. They're extreme opposites, and we'll get into all that in a second. But even within the first half, there's so many elements in there that just, it is chaos. I honestly don't even know where to start with this one. Um, let's start with the vocals. That's the only thing that kind of makes any sense to me. Um, there's something really interesting about the vocals, and it didn't click until the latter half of our first section. I was trying to figure out what was happening with it. Something was catching my ear, and I just didn't know what. I think it reminds me of like a 1920s style announcer. And as the vocalist began to pick up speed and just start throwing all these words out, rapid fire, and the way that all the words just kind of rolled together almost poetically, and I guess it's more that the syllables rolled together. I have no idea what he's saying, it's just so fast, rapid fire delivery. But the syllables flowed together and they kind of had like a repetition to them, almost a pattern within themselves. And it kind of reminded me of auctioneers. And so, like, I was like, well, why am I thinking 1920s here? And I was like, is it part of the vocal delivery? Maybe a little bit, but there's nothing in there that I can really lean on to. But production. The instruments are very clearly produced, but the vocals in the first half are not. They have a bit of compression on them. And while they are carrying a bit of a modern sound to them, there is this element that reminds me of old timey radio static. The sound of like a 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, I guess maybe radio. I don't know, like everything pre my birth is just kind of it's in these big chunks, right? Technology obviously didn't move in these big chunks, but I feel like 3 decades worth. It's like, yeah, that's like the 20s to the 50s tech. And like obviously it's not. I don't know when the radio became a consumer product where people had it in their homes, but yeah, that kind of radio announcer style mixed with the flow of an auctioneer and a little bit of that sound of coming out of an old-timey speaker. That's what like all of it kind of comes around to. And I have no idea why it was chosen. I mean, it's called The Race is About to Begin. A race is a sport. Um so maybe he's trying to be like a sports announcer. Mm, I don't know why aiming for an older style of sound on that. I don't know why specifically that auctioneer style. Um, but the vocals seem very intentional, as is everything Black Midi does. But specifically here, I've never heard vocals like this before, especially not betraying the rest of the music. Like I had mentioned, it's all produced in a primarily modern aesthetic where the vocals are not. And before we leave vocals, just to give a little shout out here, the performative aspect on this is phenomenal. I don't even want to know how many words are in this track. Having this many words in a 7 minute track is already pretty intense. There's a lot of lyrics in here, but to say, well, we'll make a 7 minute song and condense all the lyrics to the first 3 minutes, but still have that, I don't know, 500 word count or whatever, and just like speed up the tempo and the delivery and having all these words crammed into that last half. Even the first half was pretty quick. Um, and the producer, the engineer's job is to make it sound seamless. I don't know how many takes went into the production here, but for a live performance, if they're going to perform this live, the vocalist is going to just have to nail that every night. I don't know, man. That's just beyond me. Phenomenal performance. But then that takes us to the other half of the first half, which is the music. And this just. Someone correct me if I'm wrong here. This is just chaos. There is an order to it. But especially once we hit that faster mark, it just sounds like a lot of noise. The first half isn't too bad. There seems to be cohesion and understanding. Dissonance isn't utilized as often. A majority of the rhythmical concepts are synergized between instruments. There is more of a cohesive vision where everything's supposed to come together for a positive combination. That is to say, not that it's good versus bad, but that where everything comes together to strengthen the overall sound. Ah, man, even that definition, I don't know if I, because like if the ending lends itself towards chaos, it positively pushes towards chaos, but I want to kind of define that as a negative cohesion where they're all working against each other, which helps sell the overall theme of chaos. I don't know. I think I got to work on some terminology here to properly concisely talk about this. But yeah, that's what I want to get at, is that the latter half, when this gets more chaotic, all the instruments are working against each other in order to further support this chaotic sound. But in the first half, everybody works together in ways that they don't overlap and step on each other's toes, and they're pushing towards a cohesive, non-chaotic sound. um, we have that 3/4 idea that kicks us off. That bump bump bum digga 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 da 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 digga digga digga. I think it's 3/4. It feels like it should be a two pulse. It really does, but every time I tried to count two or four, it never lined up. But three didn't really line up either, and it makes me think that we're in some really strange time signature, possibly some sort of 5/8 or something. Um, but I don't know. I never caught on to what that was. Whenever we got out of that into the groove, we were in 4/4. But that one little, I want to call it like a transitional stinger, because oftentimes the vocalist quit singing. We had this little riff and then it went back into the groove. But in our chaotic final section of our first half, when the vocalist was just going and going and going, we shifted between the groove and this possibly 3/4, possibly 5/8 idea frequently. It's really baffling now that I think about it in retrospect, that the vocals consistently worked across this without feeling like they had to shift their time signature, even though I'm very certain the time signature changed between these two riffs. Man, this is gonna have to be a second listen track for me. There's so many things that I didn't get on a first time. And like this, I can't quite remember what was going on, but assuming I remember both of these things accurately, they don't line up. Bonkers. But we get out of that, we get into a groove section. In this groove section, there's a few different versions of this, maybe just two, I don't know. One of them has a very strong forward place bass lead, and the other one, the bass kind of sits in the background a little bit and is less active in its bass line. That's the only way I could tell the two apart. Everything else feels similar, but it's also hyperkinetic. There's lots of moving parts. And I'm sure if I focused in on another instrument like the bass, I could have been, oh yeah, they are doing two different things. But aside from the bass, everything else just kind of hit me as a wall. I think a lot of it is, I think it's the pitch difference, where the bass is in isolation because there's nothing else in that range. So it's really easy to hear that as a lone instrument. Whereas when I look at the other instruments, they're all kind of generally in the same range, in the trebly area, and it's more difficult for me to tell them apart, especially given the speed that we're moving through everything. Not just the speed of the individual lines, but how quickly we're moving between sections as well. So it's a lot to take in. It really is. Um, but I kind of get the feeling we have like two different groovy styles, and we alternate them with that 3/4 stinger transition idea. And that's how we transition from one of the grooves to the other groove. And that's the entire first half of the track, which took me quite some time to talk about. And the ending is going to be the opposite of that in every way, including the fact it probably won't take me very long to talk about. Where the beginning is primarily focused with layers and filling space and being noisy at times and speed and just noise. The ending is not. The ending is quite happy with leaving space, with being isolated. It's not empty. We have our acoustic guitar playing eighth notes, I think. We have some violins and horns playing atmospheric stuff. I think there's a violin that just holds a note out, and then I don't know if it's a saxophone or a violin. I think it's run through a distortion pedal as well, so it changes the timbre a little bit, but we kind of get these um crescendos and decrescendos to give us these swells. Kind of swell in and fade out. And I think there's a couple of times you also had some panning things where it kind of swelled in from one side and fade out the other. But all of it is to kind of create this dreary, moody atmosphere. There's not a lot of moving lines, even our vocals, where before they were a little bit compressed and kind of had more of a speaking tone to them and an energy. This one's sort of dreary, lots of held, suspended tones. Um, Not so much in the vein of quick attacks with very specific notes. You hit the pitch and then you're off of the pitch to move to the next syllable or whatever. Here it is, we have a little bit of looseness to them. The pitch can rise and lower across time. It's all of it is just the stark opposite. Whatever idea went into composing the first half, just do the opposite of it. Less layers, less movement, less staccato notes, more held out notes, allow notes to shift their pitch, and put a lot of space in here. What's interesting is tone, atmosphere, emotion, possibly is what I'm going for here. The beginning is a rush. It really is. It's just always going. You don't have a time to catch your breath. I swear my heart was beating after that. When we moved into the second half of the track, things slowed down. Like I could feel my heart beating. Songs don't typically give me adrenaline like that, especially not when I'm listening critically. Maybe there's going to be some tense songs. Ash Inspire will do that to me. They'll get my heart pumping, but that's because I'm engaging with it on an emotional level. But this, I was listening to critically, and it still got an emotional rise out of me, which is impressive. Um, but yeah, it's driving. It is constant energy. Like I said, Rush, I think, is the best concept I can get out of it. It feels like a temporary adrenaline high. And we move from that into something that is dreary and slow. But interestingly, where some of the dissonance in the first half lended itself well to the chaos, the dissonance in the second half feels more eerie, feels more otherworldly, feels more dangerous. The dissonance at the beginning is just the noise, like being at a party. Everybody talking, all these conversations around you. It is noisy. It is a lot of dissonance, but there's no danger to it. It's just the ambiance of the situation. But here, it's like walking down an alley that you don't know, and you hear these sounds, and it kind of puts you on edge. And whoa, whoa, that's the phrase right there. The first half is adrenaline, the second half is on edge. It's stressful, even though they both are using dissonance. What that dissonance contributes to the atmosphere is vastly different. Huh. There was one more thing I wanted to comment on. It was during the first part. It was one specific technique. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't much for analysis. I just wanted to congratulate and highlight something that I thought was interesting or different. I can't even remember what it was or what was special about it. That's a shame. I'm gonna hit some lyrics, and I'm thinking it's gonna take a bit. There's a lot of lyrics in here from what it sounded like. Fingers crossed, it's all repetition, and I don't have to read a lot. I'll be back in a second for you guys. For me, it's gonna be like 10, 15 minutes, and we'll discuss the lyrics and what they might mean for the song. Uh, well, I wanna put something into context. The final verse of the chaotic section, the one where the vocalist and the music just continues to speed up, and the vocalist isn't stopping much at all, just to take these really sharp breaths because they don't have time for a proper breath. Oh, that would have been a cool thing to talk about, the technique of that and what it indicates. Yeah, basically, a lot of the other times we don't hear the vocalist breathing, but when we get to the faster part, we get these really sharp inhales, and it's because there just isn't time to breathe. And maybe that ties into the whole concept of rush. I mean, I just read the lyrics. I don't get a lot of it. Anyways, though, that verse is verse 7, and it is 77 lines long. This was a lot to read, and I'm not going to say I understood a lot of it. There seems to be some sort of race that you can bet on. Um, yeah, verse 4 says, rival the mains on these mares. So I'm going to assume they're betting on horse racing. And we have a person, I think, named Tristan Bongo. And they seem to be betting on the race. And I don't know the consequence of that. Maybe they won. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Um, and then we just get this ridiculous 77 line. It was just like 2 minutes of words. It was just bonkers. And I don't know what any of it's about other than the end where it says we go through like all these different like characters. I think there's a story here. It's all told so vaguely, but it says Blondie gone, Four Eyes gone, Guido's gone, Clerk gone, Chris gone, Tristan Bongo, the man who never left, stayed here. So is this about, I don't know, about gambling forever? Because we do have this line here that says that race was run 30 years ago, but each day is still the same. Did this Tristan Bongo get addicted to gambling on betting on horse races? But like what came of that? I don't, there's so many words here. I would love to see a poetry analyzer or a lyrical. Do we have professional lyrical analyzers on YouTube anywhere? Reacting to lyrics or something? I don't know if that's a profession, but I did see there's some professional music listeners out there now, which is pretty cool. And so I guess you could be a professional at anything. It just means you get. See, we're going to go on a small tangent here. I always thought professional meant you were best of the best, right? Professional versus amateur. But I found out recently that professional can also mean that you just get paid for it. So you don't have to be good at it, but if you get paid to dance, you're a professional dancer, even if you're not a good dancer. That blows my mind because it goes so hard against my understanding of it. I can change my titles from composer reacts to professional music breakdowner, professional music analyzer. That rolls a lot better off the tongue. Um, I don't know. It completely warps my understanding of the word professional. Anyways, what was I going with? Oh yeah, if there's like somebody who's really good at breaking down lyrics, I want to see them break this down because I wonder how many things went over my head that are metaphors or allusions to other things or, connected to other words, or maybe they have a better memory than me because like I don't know, maybe there's some callbacks in the lyrics to, verse 1 and like I can't remember that far long ago, especially when you got 77 lines. So much of it just goes over my head though. I get the gist. It's about horse gambling or betting on horse races. Um, but then the outro is interesting because it is that everything is the opposite, which fits perfectly with what the music's doing. I mentioned that the music is the opposite in every regard of what we just listened to, but it says stuff like the clown can be a martyr, the hack becomes a master, the crass become divine. Uh, I don't know what it means. Unless this Tristan Bongo character, I mean, were they somebody before gambling? Were they somebody after gambling? Did the gambling change them? Is that what it's saying? That betting on horse or just gambling in general can change a person? But saying it in like a bajillion different words? I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I'm so lost. I'm lost on this musically. I'm definitely lost on it lyrically. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. If this is about gambling, especially on horse races, because uh, I don't know that I've really seen it too much in my life, but like old Tom and Jerry cartoons or old Looney Tunes, especially ones much older, not the ones today that have been updated to modern societal standards, but yeah, the older ones where they would showcase like I don't know, like Tom betting on horse racing or something like that, and they didn't put it on TV, they put it on the radio, and you'd have the radio announcer. Maybe that's what I was thinking of this whole time. And like, yeah, the speed and veracity and passion of the vocalist here, especially as the story goes on, sounds like as the race is wrapping up and they're trying to bump up the intensity of the race for people who aren't there and can't see and can't feel the electricity of the crowd as this race is neck and neck. So they got to put that electricity and that passion into their vocals. They got to speed up their talking. They got to get more energetic. They got to let you know that this is a really close race and oh my god, it's right down to the minute. And like that's what the vocals feel like as well. That's pretty cool. I think that's the most solid read I have on this track is what the vocals were doing. Oh man. So those are my thoughts on this track. I got a lot of holes in my understanding here. Please, if you have your own read on this, if you have anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on or just tell me your perspective on it, let me know down in the comments. Above the comment select section is a description box, and in there you'll find a link to Linktree, which takes you to this menu right here. It has links for everything related to the channel. You can find my music, you can find a link to the Discord community, you can find a link to all the ways to support the channel, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. We have a special selection as well. Interestingly, it's Genesis, which we just did last week. So it'll be interesting to check out another one from them. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll continue looking at some of your favorites from 2022, as well as another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.